Hello guys, we're doing an interview for MMARocks, Polish website, with Thompsonem and Christian, his personal trainer, strength and conditioning trainer, just before 16th of December with the, before the fight. Oli, can you introduce yourself to Polish fans, basically, tell us a few words about your career in strongman, and then why did you decide to switch over to MMA and how the transformation went?
Yeah, sure. Well, obviously, as you know, my name is Thompsonem. Competed with the strongest man, world strongest man competitions for 7 or 8 years. My last competition was world strongest man in West Virginia, 2008. On my way home from the competition, I was disappointed with my results. Decided I wanted to have a change in my competition and what I do in my training. So I wanted to think of something else that I could do that would satisfy my competitive urges. And I decided that mixed martial arts and grappling was something that I could possibly do well at with the right training and the right adjustment. So I didn't really train in any mixed martial arts sort of categories until the beginning of 2009, when I started doing a bit of Brazilian Jiu-jitsu and some wrestling. And I really enjoyed it, but it was pretty tough. Obviously, I was quite a big guy still from the strongman. But I fought my first professional fight about a month later, which I won, fortunately. It was tough. And I fought 3 times in my first year of training professionally. And since then, I've obviously fought in the UFC a couple of times, won the cage rage MMA heavyweight title, had some good results, a couple of results I'm not happy with, but it's been a good journey, and we've got another episode of it coming up soon.
Yeah, so it's a brief history of basically a few years in MMA. How did you find transforming your daily routine regime in training? Because obviously heavyweight lifting is completely different when it comes to stamina and training and conditioning, and switching strictly to wrestling, MMA itself, and Jiu-jitsu when you have to control your breath. And how can you introduce us into your daily routine sort of like?
I mean, the training obviously is very hard in the mixed martial arts and very hard in the strongman. But mixed martial arts is a lot more taxing for me. A lot of the guys that are doing strongman, world strongest man sort of level, they're strong guys, and they're talented in that area, naturally very strong. So they have to push themselves, but it's also something that kind of comes quite easy to you. So lifting weights was always something that comes quite easy to me, you know. And just pushing it and getting stronger and stronger. It's still very taxing on the body, but you can maybe train 1 time in a day, and the rest of the day is just resting and eating. So you can imagine the rest of the day isn't too bad. Whilst crossing over to mixed martial arts, some of the difficulties were obviously maybe a bit of flexibility, a bit tight in some areas through the hips, through the core, shoulders, just too much size, too much unnecessary muscle, weighing you down, tiring you out. So lactic acid could be a problem sometimes. So it's basically it's just more frequent training, more variety in training, and training in things. When you lift in weights, you're generally training in things that you're probably quite good at. But in the mixed martial arts training, you're going to train a few things you're good at, and you're also going to have to train even harder in a few things that you don't enjoy so much because you're not so good at. So that's always a challenge, because you've got to motivate yourself to do something that's going to be difficult. But I guess that's what champions are going to do, push through them difficulties. So the stamina isn't really an issue as long as you train the right way, which with my own determination and Mr. Christian Vilã's knowledge put together, we've managed to find a formula that has served us quite well up to this point. And we're always pushing for more, we're never satisfied. So as much as I'd say that we've done a good job, we're always looking to do a better job and try and make it where we can fight at a higher pace. So it's not just fighting 15 minutes. So fighting 15 minutes isn't what we're looking for. We're looking to be able to always fight at a higher pace and a higher rate and be more dangerous at 15 minutes. There's never a finishing point where we've done it. We're all looking for a little bit more. And obviously we have to work around a lot of factors such as how long the camp is, any injuries that might occur along the way, and other things that go on during the camp. But we've had a lot of success, and we're hoping that it's going to continue for a long while yet.
Yeah. Christian, there's a question for you. Have you been with Oli from the very beginning of his MMA career, or?
Yeah, pretty much. I think he had maybe
how did he
a couple of fights before, yeah.
In your opinion, how did Oli improve when, you know,
we
started
position,
strength and conditioning trainer for Oli's?
Yeah, I saw he had a lot of potential right at the beginning. You know, back then obviously, you know, he had the status he had through his strongman training, but I saw he had a lot of potential in the MMA world, in the MMA arena, primarily because I saw his mental attitude was very switched on. He was willing to train at all times. You know, he was never making excuses, and I think that's what separated him from other fighters that I've been working with. When I first started with him, I'll be honest with you, he wasn't ideal for MMA. He was still quite blocky. He was still holding a lot of extra muscle. You know, his stamina, you know, could have done with a bit of work. But it's improved so much more now in the time that we've been together that it's almost like we're creating the ideal athlete, because he has still got a good frame. He has still got, you know, a good weight behind him, but he's able to use that weight a little bit, a lot better now.
Yeah, your name is going to be more recognizable in Poland as a strongman. It's pretty much the same as Pudzianowski all over the world, basically. And you know, this comparison. Could you tell us a story about you and Pudzianowski and a fight that never had happened, basically? You know, there was rumors that you might fight Pudzianowski. I mean, to clash of the titans, like
sure. Well, I mean, it was an obvious thing to put together as far as both of us going into a fighting career a few years ago. So it's kind of something that gets talked about in the gym, you know, fantasy matchups, things like this. But I hadn't had any bad negative experience of Marius in my time doing strongman. A few competitions in the same thing. Obviously, we were in a different league. He's the best strongman in the world. I was a guy pushing towards sort of the top 10, you know. So he was way ahead of me in strongman terms. In fighting terms, it was just more of a, like I said, a fantasy matchup. But along the way, it got to the point where I've been released from the UFC, so I lost a couple of fights in a row, and not too long ago, Marius had won a few fights in a row, and it got to the point where maybe it was more of a realistic, appropriate fight at that time. So basically the stronger rumours just come from me offering a challenge to Marius and seeing if he would like to accept the challenge, and maybe we could organise and make this fight happen at some point. And the challenge is still out there, but I haven't heard back as far as anything that's possible, but I have heard recently that he's said in Poland that this is something he would be interested in. So I'm not focusing my energy onto if that might happen or not happen. It's not something I'm thinking about all the time, to be honest. You know, I have other things and other opportunities. But if Marius and KSW would be interested, or someone like this would be interested, then I would definitely, obviously, still be interested.
Well, it might happen in the future, basically. Yeah, we're here just because you're having a fight at 16 with Damian Grabowski, and Damian Grabowski himself, he wasn't pretty sure if it's going to happen or not. There was a few issues about it, but finally everything has been confirmed on the 8th of November, which is pretty much 4 weeks before the fight. How do you feel, you know, this period of time of preparation? Is it enough to prepare yourself and your game plan towards this big fight? Because Damian Grabowski is a heavyweight fighter, obviously experienced fighting Bellator and MMA Attack and many different organizations. He's a good grappler and a submission fighter, and he's a good stand-up as well. You know, is this short period enough for you to prepare yourself, with Christian and all the other trainers?
I mean, I was really preparing for a fight already, so I was going to be in the camp as it was. I mean, judging how right or wrong things are and how successful things are, it all comes down to results at the end of the day. If this fight happened and the result wasn't the one we were looking for example, it'd be easy for us to say, no, it wasn't right. If the result goes the right way on a 1 week camp, we can say it was right. And the variables in a heavyweight MMA fight are so large that anything can happen in one split second of the fight. So it came down to, would I like to fight? The first question I get posed to me is, would I be interested in fighting Damian Grabowski? Yeah, I'd be interested in fighting. He's a great champion. Number 2, have I got the time to fight Damian Grabowski in 4 weeks or whatever? I have got the time. It's not ideal, it's not perfect, but sometimes things aren't going to be perfect. It's not how. It's an opportunity. Sometimes you turn down an opportunity and come back to it. then the next thing is, how many things can we make good to make it acceptable, the overall terms, as far as how long, what training I've got available to me at the time, what the person may be, etc., etc. There's a lot of factors to take into consideration. But the main one is I don't ever get to the point where I'm unfit to fight throughout the year. You know, I like to think we're always within 4 or 5 weeks of fighting.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, you know, what we did with Ollie is we took him up to a level for his previous fight, and now we've just kept him going at that level. Right. And we've even seen some improvements in his especially in his aerobic conditioning as well within this 4 weeks. So I think timing-wise, I think it's perfect, really.
Well, my next question was, did you spar with any heavyweight wrestlers and grapplers just preparing for this specific fight? But obviously, you were preparing yourself for other fights, so you mean sort of like...
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you a brief run with it anyway. I mean, my normal training is, I've got a lot of good grapplers around me, not all of them are heavyweights, different weights. Very high level grapplers, you know, highest level
Well, which gyms do you train in? Is it in Brighton, Eastbourne, London? Can you mention some names?
I mean, as far as grappling, in my hometown, I grapple in first generation fitness as a joint gym in my hometown. Got some very good grapplers there. I also travel to the same team, my solo team, Icon team. Sometimes travel to Slough, training the guys in Slough, more variety of guys, and guys with high grading, high level belts in Ju-jitsu. I spent some time up in Wigan at a gym called Powerback Gym, Atherton Submission Wrestling. And them guys have got lots of heavyweights up there and incredible grapplers. And I had a torrid time there. That was really tough. But it's all good training to have a good fight. I've grappled with lots of good grapplers. To be honest, you could watch all of my fights. I've had maybe 10, 11, 12 professional fights now. And you wouldn't really see a whole lot of my grappling because that isn't something that's necessarily come across in all my fights. The fights have materialised in different ways. Yeah. So people aren't really aware, or they're a bit unaware of what I can and can't and will and won't do when it comes to more of a grappling situation. So I'm very comfortable to demonstrate, hopefully in this fight or another fight.
By watching Grabowski's fights, did you find any weak sides of Grabowski? And have you watched all of his fights?
I've watched a fair few, not all of them. I've watched enough. I'm not someone who studies every fight of an opponent. It's not something that I take confidence from just doing that. I like to watch enough fights where I have an understanding of someone's habits and their nature and their preferences. So I've done that. 3 or 4 fights. So not lots. He's had a lot of fights, you know. Guys were experienced. I certainly wouldn't be as presumptuous to say I've found weaknesses in him. I think that terminology would be wrong. I would say that I've seen different ways in which his style can be exploited to work towards something that I want to do. But let's be straight. This guy's been beaten once. He's never been stopped. There's no easy way around this puzzle, you know. It's a matter of getting in the fight and being ahead.
Have you prepared any game plan with your coaches?
We have some strategy. We don't like to. The main strategy is always to play to your own strengths. It's got to be. That's mistakes I've made a few times in the past. But other than that, the strategy is to have the right reaction from whatever Damien's action is.
Okay, Christian, what would you like to say from your perspective about all this preparation for the last 4 weeks? How does it look like, you know, narrowing down? What we do is before the fight and just techniques and just...
Yeah, we're sort of like in the final phase of training now, which will be like more of a power endurance. We're sort of capitalising on Ollie's strengths, as in his strength. We've really worked on his power generation as well. So now we just put that all together and ask him to do all that for extended periods of time. So that's what you'll see a little bit of today. You'll see some video footage of the kind of things that we do. And Ollie was already ready for his last fight, which he won convincingly. Unfortunately, we couldn't really see his cardio because he stopped the guy in the first round. So what we're doing is capitalising on what he's already got up to that stage, and we're just continuously improving.